Okay. All right. Good. Let's see. Good afternoon, Shai. Good afternoon, Allison. Good afternoon, Marilyn. Oh, there's Maria. Good afternoon, Maria. Good afternoon, Marilyn. Good afternoon, Alan. Good afternoon, Harrison. There's Yavi. Good afternoon, Yavi. Good afternoon, Katie. Good afternoon, Michelle. I would like to know at this point, does Michelle actually draw those? I'm kind of assuming she does. That's okay. Good afternoon. I mean, 2 semesters later, and I'm finally asking. All right. Good afternoon. You're awesome. Good afternoon, Jada. Wait, more people coming. Good afternoon, Freddie. Afternoon, Maria. Oh, it's a set. Maria has, they have one more day to actually add an adjective qualifier to the kind of afternoon it is. But anyway, whatever. All right. And yes, she did. I said, well, I know you said 4 classes ago that you did a different one every day. I didn't. Oh, maybe. Okay. If you made it clear that you drew them, I'm sorry. All right. Well, yes. All right. They're awesome. Okay. My apologies. And good afternoon, Stephanie. And good afternoon, Yavi. I guess I said that. Noom. Okay, yes. Noom to Chris. Good afternoon, Victoria. Excuse me. Okay. Who else did I did I say ever? Okay. Okay. So, oh, and Alan, right, we got Alan. Okay. All right. This, in my understanding, this is the second to last class, right? Like we have today and we have Wednesday, and we're going to do logistics first. So stop me when I'm wrong about something. Like I believe we have today, I believe we have Wednesday, I believe they're both normal times. So today's going to be, is that right? Oh, that's a closed caption. Okay. Excuse me. So we're going to start closing down shop today, like wrapping up a lot. Like, in fact, my hope is to deal with a lot of logistical things today so that Wednesday can be the actual last opportunity for me to put this physics to get to finish the physics for you and tell you what I think the point of all of this was or whatever. Um, so so put another way, hopefully Wednesday will be a little bit interesting, but hopefully today will be clear. Hope so. It's about closing down the semester with all loose ends eventually tied up. So definitely today is the day, more than Wednesday. Today is the day to stop me or ask me any questions about anything logistical or or bookkeeping or what do you not anything personal. If you have anything personal, we'll set up an appointment or we'll talk by email or text or Zoom. But as far as general procedures for shutting down shop, like today, I want to make sure they're all clear. So, okay. So there's a good question in the chat already. Yes, a good question in a direct chat. In the direct, and again, today, this is exactly the day for questions like this one. So let's please make sure it's all clear to everybody. So yes, somebody in the direct chat is at. Oh my God. Okay, I just saw Michelle F's thing. Sorry. All right. That's awesome. Someone is asking in the direct chat, am I still accepting homeworks up until Wednesday? Like this Wednesday? Yes, I am. Yes, I will. Okay, just like I'm still turning things back to you, which I'll address in a second. Yes, if you have like revisions on something else where you didn't get a perfect grade or you got a grade but not a perfect grade or something like that, or an old homework that you never turned in, yes, I will take things to Wednesday, but let me be as clear as I can about that. Number one, don't like it's for tying up loose ends. If you've like never done any homework in this class or something like that, like it is not the time to suddenly dump on me like 6 homeworks or something like that from start to finish that were never started before. Because we all know there's almost no way that anybody can sort of honestly, authentically really do all that work in 2 nights. So it looks as weird to me as it feels to you to do that. Okay, so don't give me like all the old assignments all in one package on Wednesday because we know that it can't represent authentic work at that point. But yes, if you have a couple assignments that you never did or something, and you feel like now you understand them and you could do them now, like, because then sure, yes, you can do that by Wednesday. Be selective, be thoughtful. And anything I ever, and here's the other thing too, anything I ever didn't give you a perfect score on, but I gave you comments or feedback, and you want to incorporate that feedback and get a perfect score now, yes, you can do that by Wednesday. If you got a homework where you didn't get a perfect score, but I didn't give you any feedback, then I mean, if the score is very good, but just not perfect, I wouldn't worry about it anyway at this point. But if it was like, if it's a score that could stand for a significant improvement, and I didn't give you feedback, you can, and it's like one or two assignments, you can reach out to me and ask me about that. But don't kill yourself. If I don't answer your question or whatever, don't kill yourself if there's no feedback. If you don't know what it is that you need to do to get a perfect score, don't kill yourself over that, because I know that also. And in the end of the day, the deal is like, if I never told you what to do, then I will raise the points. Okay, so that's not your problem. If you have any question in your mind, reach out to me. But I hope that's clear. But yes, I'm accepting things up to Wednesday. I'm also accepting, I changed the dates. I'm accepting game things like showing avatar, showing video, things like that were like special game features. You can turn those into Wednesday. I'm not accepting daily game turns. That doesn't make sense. I mean, tonight, yeah, Wednesdays, yeah. But like, don't go back and dump. Basically, in your heart, if you suddenly try to dump the whole semester in my box by Wednesday, first of all, you'd be far wiser to just spend your time on the final, really. And second of all, you'd be far wiser to spend your time on the final. Like, it just doesn't look, I mean, no one's kidding anybody if you dump the entire semester in my box by Wednesday, okay? But hopefully so the person that just answered who just asked that direct question, that is a really good question. It's the kind of things I want to have clear today. So can I just ask, the person who just asked me that directly, could you tell me in direct chat if I answered the question, like if it's clear? I'll wait for a second. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, awesome. All right, so that's that. Okay, so that's that. Then as far as your midterms, now I believe every single person in this class has gotten back their midterm, even if it was very recently. I believe everybody's gotten their midterm. Some people even got specific comments on the midterm like, oh, I like the way you presented this. Do the same thing on the final, but please just spread out more or something like that. In fact, that probably applies to many of you. Like, whatever you did on the midterm, especially if I said something about it, like just, if you got basically a decent score on the midterm, like even if you got in the 70s on the midterm, it probably still, if you got in the 70s, it probably means there's like substance that you want to think harder about on the final. But even if you got in the 70s on the midterm, it still probably means, okay, I like the way you're presenting it is legit. I can follow it. It's clear. Like, I don't mean even, but like 70s or higher, if you got on the midterm, they don't like radically change your whole approach. It means your whole approach is fine for the final. In many cases, I think if you guys could spread your work out a little bit more, like skip more lines between big problems, or even make the fonts bigger or zoom in more or something, just make it like bigger and super clear. And like leave room. Remember, like it's something I have to comment on, whether or not you ever look at the feedback. Like for me to be able to follow it as clearly as possible, in many cases, probably the one thing I would ask is just leave more room so that I can write more legibly on it. Okay. But for the most part, in terms of what you need to do for the final, like because it's different questions on the final anyway, right? So there's no point in like me getting too bogged down in the specific questions of the midterm at this point. I mean, it's different material. But as far as larger approaches, just remember, no matter what, on any problem, you have to start with a diagram of the facts of the problem, not of the analysis, of the facts. Then later through the problem, while you're solving, there may be specific type of diagrams or graphs or free body diagrams that you have to do to start solving things. But no matter what, you got to start with a picture of the situation, of all the facts in the situation. If it's a mathematical situation, that would mean a graph. But if the situation as described is a physical situation, then don't start with a graph. Like, you only start with a graph if the situation right from the get-go is purely mathematical. And if it's a graph, no matter what you do, you label. The whole point of the original picture is to label rigorously so that so that all the constants and variables that are used in the math are defined by the picture. Okay, and I think there's things happening in the chat. I'll look in the chat in 1 second. But so just this is a larger thing, just for, and this is not a criticism. I'm just trying to, again, tie up loose ends so that we can like go into the end of the semester confidently or calmly as possible. So definitely start with a picture and then make it clear what problem you're on. Like, what is the question? Is step 2, make that super clear, and then go from there. The more you can sledgehammer step 3 GDP, like some of the exams where people went really elaborately on all the GDPs and like all the background for whatever was needed to derive for that problem were really impressive exams. The more you can go crazy on step 3, at least on the first problem, the better. And if you, I don't want to get into like, but if you got an 80 in the 80s on the exam, you're fine. Like, don't be stressing. If you got it in the 90s on the exam, you're definitely fine. But also, since I know it's clear that a lot of you work together on the midterm, and that was fine. I told you could do that. I have a comment to make about that. But since you're hopefully collaborating, working together anyway, I would say anybody who got in the 90s on this exam, on the midterm exam, like show what you did to other people if you feel comfortable, because it does provide a good model for what I'm looking for. The 80s are totally fine too. I mean, nobody should be freaking out, but like but definitely the ones that were in the 90s are like a good model of a very good model of what's going on. Okay, wait, I gotta look in the chat. I know. But one quick thing before I forget. Of course, you all work together. I said you could, to help each other. But then what you got to do is after you work together to help each other, then still you've got to give yourself some private time to then go privately, go back and produce the exam on your own, because there's a lot of errors that were like sort of repeated throughout I mean, there was a lot of places, not a lot, there were places where it was clear that a bunch of people did stuff together and came to a conclusion together, but actually I don't agree with that conclusion. This is not a critique. This is just a cautionary tale that yes, it's good for everybody to work together and help each other, but that doesn't guarantee that you're right about something. So and then you're being graded a lot on like how you present stuff. So first of all, it's very possible that 2 people can have the same answer that they probably got together, or they trusted each other, but that doesn't mean they're going to get the exact same score on that presentation. That's number 1. That's just like, because this is about presentation and communication. But then number 2, please, no matter what you do to help each other, then go back and really ask yourself like what you believe about what you just learned. I have crazy stories I could tell you another time of times where like the whole class came to one big conclusion, except left one person out. Okay, really quickly, years ago, way before COVID, during a summer course, the whole class did the whole 204 exam together on their own, like, and they all did it like all together, but they didn't invite one person, like literally, because at the time I didn't know this was happening at the time. One person, or maybe he or she never, well, it was he, never got the invitation because that person's English was a little bit like undeveloped at the time. So people didn't invite that one person, and they all did the exam together. And they all got fundamental things fundamentally wrong, and they all got a 78 or thereabouts on the exam. And the one person that they didn't invite got a 95. I mean, this is a crazy story, but it's true. And that person that they didn't invite who got the 190, this is years ago. Again, this has nothing to do with you guys, but just as a cautionary tale, the one person who wasn't invited, and again, all this was happening without me knowing it while it was happening. The one person who got a 95 on the exam and wasn't invited to the big exam party, his name was Chi Wu, and he turned into Professor Wu. Like, if any of you know him from a few years ago, he used to teach physics for us for a while. Okay, so just like work with each other, but then go back and trust yourself. Don't just anyway. You get my point. Okay, I'm gonna look in the chat. So these are just, again, I think everybody's doing fine. If you did an exam and even if you got in the 70s, you're not failing this class or anything like that. We'll get back into the grading system again in a second. But sure, if you got in the 70s, you probably do want to do better on the final exam. I mean, I will say that. Like, you don't want to just blow it off. But hopefully these larger points that I'm making will help you with. Okay, so I'm looking in the chat. I'm looking in the chat. What if I can do? Yeah, okay, no. Now, Chris's question, and again, yes, today is the day for these kind of questions, to a point. Chris's question It might be like a third of a joke, but I'm going to assume it's like 2/3 serious. So you, like, okay, so don't do that, but close. What I am saying is that all the homework points and the lab average and everything counts a lot for this class. And yes, I am saying, so first of all, again, like it's true that even if you got a 70 on the midterm, that does not, first of all, it certainly doesn't mean you're failing the class, especially if you've done all the other stuff. And it doesn't even mean you're getting a C- or a C in the class. Like if you got a 70 on the exam, you still could be gunning. You could absolutely be gunning for a B- or a B or something like that in this class. Conversely, on Chris's question, if you got in the 90s or high 80s on the exam, then you should be going into this final feeling comfortable and confident, but don't be so confident and comfortable that you don't take the final. I'm not saying that as a critique, but just as a mathematical point, just to be clear, what is true, and I think I said it in the, hopefully you see the logistics in the Google Classroom that have been posted. I am going to count whichever exam you did better on more. Let me say that again. Whichever exam you do better on, I will count it more. In fact, as it turns out, it's sort of like substantially more. But I definitely don't eliminate your worst exam. It does count. You do have to, there aren't a lot of exams in this class, and and the grading system does incorporate them in a non-trivial way. So you definitely want to take both exams. Like I'm taking Chris's question seriously because it is a reasonable question. If you did really well and you think you're doing well on everything and you think you're rocking, then what I'm saying is I'm definitely admitting in advance that you can stress harder about your other final exams, like whatever they are. Like, I don't think you have to kill yourself on my final or be too panicked that all of a sudden it's going to destroy all the work that you've done this semester. But no, you do want to take it. If you got a 0, if you literally didn't take the final and you got a 0, no, you would not want that. Again, I'm just taking this seriously because yes, your better exam will count more. So for some of you, that means take the final seriously so you can improve the situation. And some of you means you can chill a little bit. But do take the final. Yes, it does count. And on that note, and I know there's still more in the chat. On that note, you'll find a note about the final in the Google Classroom, like the actual logistics. Again, it'll be posted no later than 8 p.m. this Thursday, and it'll be due back midnight this Monday. That'll, so that you get your grades on time and all that. There's still a lot of other loose ends. Like you could still turn in some loose ends by Wednesday, as we already said, but I still have loose ends to turn back to you. Like I think the main thing, of course, you were concerned about was the midterm or should be concerned about. But there's still lots of homework and homework points and game turn points that I still owe many of you. Believe me, you'll see them coming over the next few days. You might have even seen a few right before this class. They will all be counted for sure. Everything gets counted. But yes, do take the final. Sorry. So in Google Classroom, there's a note about the final, and then there is a practice exam. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more today and Wednesday. There is a practice exam. Again, it contains more than what you need for your final exam, but it contains more. Like there's nothing else you need besides it for your final exam, unless I update it or make corrections or something. There's 2 pieces to it. One piece is like a Google form, like true false piece. Don't worry about that yet. I'll explain about that on the last day. It may or may not be relevant to you, but it has to be updated in any event. But if you want to focus on what your exam is going to look like, look at the other piece, the non-Google form piece first. And just like that piece, you'll have choices, etc. Okay, so hopefully now again, Chris, I want to make sure we're clear on this. So Chris, let me know in the chat if you didn't already, Chris, whether even if it was a joke, let me know if I answered your question. Okay, now I'm looking at the next thing in the chat, Maria's. Okay, I'm looking at the time. If on the final we mentioned. Oh, that's a good question too. Okay, so what Maria says in the chat is a very reasonable question too. And it's okay. So some of you did really do what I asked and what I really wanted. And some of you submitted very extensive, very thorough documents for the midterm that really showed that they didn't just answer the question, like they put together all the material and showed that you had learned everything that would lead to the answers on the midterm. And that was great. And that is what I was asking for. Like, I really am asking, these tests are like a presentation opportunity. So going bananas, especially on the first question of a document, was very appropriate and encouraged on the midterm. Now, on the final, okay, first of all, right, you don't have to go as bananas as you did in the midterm. Any of you don't. I mean, if you went bananas on the midterm, you don't have to go that thorough on the final. But I would still say part of this is meant to be practice for future research and scientific communication in general. So what I do really, what I am trying to teach you all, or at least emphasize to you all, is there's a lot to be said for a self-sufficient document. For a document that can just be presented to a person that says, here, this is a report or a finding or an investigation of a topic. This is what you need. This speaks for itself. This document will guide you not only to the topic, but it'll guide you as to how to deal with this document. There's like a lot to be said for that. I would say on the final, if there's anything crucial, any kind of ideas that you think are really important, that you went so bananas on the midterm, you don't want to repeat like 24 pages again or something. And really, honestly, people, some of the midterms were like longer than 24 pages, and that is impressive. But if you don't want to do that on the final, that's fine, but we have less time to look at it anyway. What I would do though is give a quick distillation. If there's concepts that you think you went crazy on the midterm, give a quick distillation of them, something that you think still can speak somewhat for itself. And then you can say, see midterm document, but still it should be like, as though this were a journal article. If in a journal article, you want to make a reference to a prior article in a different journal, okay. But in the back of your mind, always just assume that the person who's reading your thing doesn't necessarily have anything but your thing to navigate. So yes, I mean, so my basic answer is yes, but do it very carefully and still give a distillation. I mean, a summary of what you're saying, even on the final. But yes, you can go, but err on the side of caution. But yes, you can go less crazy on the final than on the midterm. I will too. But there's one quick example of that, or something I was about to say about that. About things speaking for themselves. Hang on. One second. I think. At some point, okay, I had something else to say about self-sufficient documents, but you are striving to make a self-sufficient document. Oh, well, it may. Okay. Oh, it makes sense. Okay, cool. All right. I sound like a girl boss. Okay, fair enough. I get that all the time. Um, okay. So I think, are those the, um, I really feel like there was one. Oh, well, okay. Okay. Um, all that said, okay. And then finally, like, okay, so the final will be posted on Thursday. Same rules, though. It's take home all of that. You could talk with each other, open universe, all of that, handed in by midnight on Monday, all of that. If from here on in, obviously, if you have personal questions, you ask me personally. Once the exams are in, and then it's like time for grading, I forget when exactly the grades are due. Whenever they're due is when mine will go in, and they'll go in with the Excel spreadsheet with you of like how they were calculated and all that. It's once the exams are in though, it's then it's a big rush for me to do. It's a big thing for me to do everybody's at once, and I can't submit any one grade until I submit all the grades. So I will beg your indulgence. I think we went through this last semester, but like once your exams are in and stuff, if you have like specific concerns, you can ask me. But like it doesn't do any good to ask me what's my grade, like what's my grade in this class. Like assume that that's what I'm working on right at that moment, and I can't work on any one person's with any more priority than anybody else's. I mean, certainly before the final and stuff, from here on in, if you think you're in severe jeopardy in the class or something like that, if I haven't reached out to you and told you that, you can reach out to me and ask. But I don't think, I mean, if you haven't heard from me, I don't think there's many people in this room who are in severe jeopardy and don't know it, if that makes sense. So I feel like there was one other. But again, all right, I'm going to just say this very quickly again, just so you know. I think you know from Physics 203, the way the grading works. I mean, it's all in the syllabus and it's all, and I think some of you understand it better than others, so you could talk to each other. But the way the grading, oh, okay, wait. Oh, that's funny. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, no, and Michelle F's question is, I mean, it's a joke, but it is funny. Like, I don't know offhand. If you're very concerned about it, you can write me and but here's how you calculate it, okay? Because it's true, whatever Google Classroom says, that I could tell you for good or for bad, that's not right. Because Google Classroom is just doing a straight average of all the numbers. It has no idea how I weight like anything. So here's how it works. Again, just it's like super quickly, just so you can have a sense and not be mystified going in. The three big pieces are the 2 exams and your final lab average, okay? Each one of those in theory counts as an exam, like your final lab average, your midterm exam, and your final exam. In theory, each of those counts as an exam, except that the exam that you did better on, I weight more. So what ends up really happening generally, I mean, this is not 100% promise, but you can do this as a rule of thumb if you want, is generally I count your higher exam twice and your lower exam once. So of those 4 pieces, your higher exam counts for 50%, your lower exam counts for 25%, and your lab average counts for 25% of the, okay? And stop me if you're not following this. But if you want to do your grade at home, like that, those things get to average together like that, okay? And so that makes a base average. Then all of the points that you ever got on anything else, all of the homeworks, all of the game turns, anything, and obviously a lot of them are still coming back to you, but you can assume if they're game turns and stuff and you turned them in, you'll get the full points if they're, if they're game turns. All of those points, you just add them all up and you'll have a huge number like in the hundreds or something. You divide that number by a number that I cannot tell you until the semester's over. Like it's the same number for every student always, but it's not the same number every semester. But you can assume that, oh, someone's here, sorry. You can assume from historical, precedent, you can assume that the total number of points that you get from all of that stuff, you divide by like 20, just as a conservative rule of thumb, just so you can have a sense, you divide that by 20, whatever. So like if you have 200 points, you divide by 20 and you'd have 10. Though, like, and it might be more. I mean, it might be dividing by more. We should be conservative just so you'd be safe. Say you divide by 25. Right? You divide by all that by 25, and whatever you get after dividing all your points by 25, you add to the base average that I just explained, and that's your average in the class, basically. So all those points that you got, like they add on to your final average. Just obviously they're scaled down because I can't add 200 points, to a percentile, or to a percentage. But that's basically how it works. And then indeed, then there's even one extra point that you can get for what sometimes I call citizenship, sometimes I call engagement. I forget, I call it something that basically you can call it participation, except that everything else already is participation. You can get one extra point if you've really, really been extra present and extra committed and extra obvious and extra, engaged. in the class. And the purpose of that one extra point is that if you're right on the bubble, if you're right on a borderline thing and you've done all your work and everything and you're right on the then I can give you that one extra point so that you're not on the borderline and you can get the A- rather than the B+ or whatever. Okay, but that's the basic system. I'm just trying to make it clear again. And Google Classroom doesn't know that, but I'm telling you that. So you can project based on that. Okay, and now that you have all the information, most of the information that's except for the final exam, that should be okay. So all that said, on the last day, I'll be more specific about exactly what parts of your practice final exam are like actually relevant to your final and what not and stuff. But basically, before we move on to other loose ends, honestly, in fact, I'm looking at you now. Can you just like rate or well, let me pause for a second. If there's any other questions about how the semester winds down or how your grade winds down, I want to pause right now to make because we might not be able to do this as these questions as much on Wednesday. Wednesday, I just want to like finish the curriculum. So I'm going to pause for a second. If there's any larger confusion about the larger system of how we wrap up. Oh, and I just remembered the other thing. Okay, but are there any questions at all? I'm going to pause for a second just in case. Okay. If they're not, then I'm going to do the reverse now. Can you please raise an electronic hand if you feel like it's sort of basically clear to you how we will close the semester? Okay, cool, cool. Okay, cool. That's okay, awesome. That's good. And I'm just and okay, so that's most people. And is there any, okay, you could, great, put your hands down. Thank you. I'll just make sure. Is there anybody, even if you don't have a specific question, is there anybody that feels unclear right now? Like you don't know what to ask, but there's something that's like nagging you as unresolved. Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Um, okay. Someone, I don't want to single anybody out. I'll do this. If someone just said that things are sort of unclear, but you don't know really what to ask, here's the best thing I can do right now about that. Hold on. I mean, that's, again, I'm not trying to, but my understanding, I think one person just raised their hand for, I'm sort of fuzzy, but I don't know what to ask. If that's true, if you can think of what to ask it now, but I don't want to single you out. So I'll say one thing again here. This is the most direct way to reach me. If you're nervous about something, and if you're nervous about the general procedures or don't know how you're supposed to approach the final, or just you're shaky in general, the best thing, okay. No, thank you. I just saw a direct chat thing. So maybe it is clear to people, but just in case, if something's not clear in the next 2 weeks, it would be best to reach out to me before before you turn in the final, but that, hold on one second. I'm responding to direct text. Okay. One last thing. It seems like it's pretty clear to most people, but yes, one person did just remind me. If ever you've been I do feel like I'm pretty good about emails, honestly, actually. I don't always have every answer that everybody wants, but I do check email and all of that, and I do respond. If any of you have ever been trying to reach me by email and don't feel like you're getting the responses, one thing I want to ask you is please check your spam folders. I don't know why this happens, but there has been an issue lately where some of my emails go into spam. I don't know if it's whether it's I don't know why, but please check your spam folders especially if you've specifically been waiting for an email from me. or reach out again. But bottom line, if there's any issue, please text me. I don't think anything's ever like, and if I have to redirect us, I will. But wait, my car's extended more than wait. Okay. I'm looking at there's a lot of things. Uh, uh, Also, I'll say at this point, if I don't think this is that relevant, if you're having issues with Google Classroom where you like the main thing is make sure you got your exam back and all that. But if there's certain items that you're sure that you've done that you think are, I'm just responding to direct chats right now. I mean direct. If you're sure that you're sending things and then they keep bouncing back in Google Classroom, that probably means your drive is full. Like if you're sending things in Google Classroom, but they're not like being accepted, that's a thing of your drive being full on your side. And there's not anything I can do about that. I will say we still have to take all the work through Google Classroom. Like what sometimes happens at this point is people start trying to send me work through email. That I don't even know how to incorporate it. I can't incorporate that in. Like I can't actually put it into your grading system. So if your drive is full, that's something that has to be worked out on your side. But I'm just looking. Okay. And we'll move on in a second. Well, if you're signed in on one device and on one device it says everything is submitted, then I think that's true. If some other device it says it's not submitted, I don't know what that means. I think if they're really specific issues, so I'm responding to direct chats. If they're really specific issues like that, like things going on in the Google Classroom, I would ask that you, whoever, any of you, text me. I mean, I can't, like, not right now in the middle of class, but I will try to deal with it at best by texting and get to the bottom of it if all else fails. I mean, and look, to everybody, and then we'll move on in a second. Part of the reason I'm asking this now and getting this done, I mean, we don't want to spend the very last class dealing with all these things, but it's so much of this I'm learning every year, especially post-COVID, as an instructor and as, someone who was a student for a long time. So much is about communication. If you keep trying hard to communicate with me and you send me emails and eventually you send me texts, like even if I can't fully solve whatever the electronic problem is or something, at a certain point, if you're communicating with me enough, then I know you are, and I know you're trying, and I know you're not just walking away. And that helps in the final equation of everything. So I guess I'm saying as a larger thing to everybody, I can't promise that I can solve all the problems in the next week and a half, but I can say if you're concerned about something and you reach out to me and you get a response from me and we're in communication, that's already something that can help reassure both of us. I don't, if that makes sense. Okay. 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 So I think that's all the direct chatting. So yeah, send me memes every day. I love memes. Yeah. Okay. Just looking. Okay. I think that's a direct chat. Okay. So then last thing I did just remember, and it's last thing I did just remember. Oh yeah. The other reason I want to get this all out of the way now is I really, Zoom is weird and all of that, but I've really enjoyed you guys for most of you now for 2 semesters and some of you for 1 semester. And you really have been a committed, engaged, and fun group, which is hard on Zoom. I know I've said it a million times, I don't want to but really, like the science major has always been very hard. Whatever major, the science department's always been hard. It's always been a hard thing to get through at this school. And it's much harder now, like post-COVID and through Zoom. Life is harder now. I know that. So I think you guys have done a great job of trying to make this a livable, tolerable experience for all of us. I hope you've gotten something out of physics or like it at some. I also know that if you're in this major, you're not here because you're planning on spending the rest of your life thinking about physics. I know that. I'm hoping to give you a taste and just enough of what it is so that the fundamentals of it you can rely on when you go on in your other scientific careers. And also I'm hoping that you think it's cool when you go on and etc. And you've done you've done a great job of making it fun for me to try to do that with you, all of you. So the other thing is let's just try to get through this last bit, as calmly as possible. And everybody's overscheduled in the last 2 weeks of of May. Always, it's a crazy time, always. So I don't want this to be the straw that breaks your camel's back. And when we get to the other side, hopefully unscathed, most of us or all of us, then I do want, I hope you do feel free to reach out and ask for recommendations or support for your future ambitions and stuff like that, or jobs or lab tech positions, things like that. Don't be a stranger. I'm happy to try to support you guys when we get to the other side of this. Okay, that was the thing that I was forgetting that I wanted to say before. All right, so wait, I'm just looking at the chat one more time. We're going to move on. So we still have, and I'm trying to wrap a lot of this up now so that Wednesday we can really do the last bit of physics to just show you what the point of all this was. Okay. All right. I'm going to do, so this is going to be a little bit jumpy. I'm going to do a 5-minute physics thing, literally like 7 minutes, just to set up an idea or put together an idea that I will fully finish on Wednesday. Then we're going to do so. Here's the idea. The main topic that we're ending the semester with is fields. Okay, the first third of the course was simple harmonic oscillation. That was little particles vibrating back and forth in a certain way. What was the point of all of that? Well, first of all, it's very important math for PChem and for instrumental and for going on in life, but also the whole purpose of all of that math of simple harmonic oscillation was that once you put together a whole bunch of simple harmonic oscillators together in a very specific way, i.e. question 4 from the last exam, what you get is a wave propagation, right? And a wave was big example 1 of an unthingy thing, right? So second third of the course was waves, which are things that matter in space and time, but aren't matter, right? A wave is real. Wave motion is real and scientific, but it's not material. And that's very important. So the idea that things that make a difference in space and time that actually aren't matter or particular masses or discrete countable items is a very big theme in physics that we're trying to get across in this course, that there are things that matter that aren't matter. Okay. Then the next and final topic that we've been spending time on for the last few weeks is fields. Fields are another example of something that absolutely exists in space and time, that make a huge difference in space and time, that in fact move through space and time, but they aren't matter. They aren't things. They don't have fields don't have mass. You can't count a field. There isn't 1 or 2 or 3 fields in a certain space. There's just field. So we're ending the course with this other, perhaps even more abstract notion of unthingy things, which are called fields. Because they're abstract and they're immaterial, they're hard to picture. So one little thing, and don't be intimidated. I'm not about to give you 85 more equations or anything like that. You already have the key equation to making a field, which is this right here on the board, right? I'm not going to give you more major equations in the last 2 days, but I want to try to give you a different way to picture what a field is. So first of all, what I've been saying and what I said on the last problem that we spent like 2 days doing, like the first day before break and the second day after break. Whenever I talk about fields, I'm just looking at the time. Okay. The key thing to remember is that field mathematically is force per charge, or in the case of a gravitational field, it's force per mass, right? Equationally, mathematically, physically, a force is something one object does to another. A field is something one object does to space, to all of space, to any and every point in space. So forces always involve pairs of objects. Fields always involve single object. That's the fundamental difference between the two. So if you have like a proton, if you have a positive point source sitting somewhere in the lab or sitting somewhere in space, if we talk about the field that point source produces or generates or creates, what we're saying is, and I know I've said this before, but whatever. What we're saying is, once you put a proton, once you put one proton anywhere in space, then everywhere in space now sits a vector, everywhere in space, and the vectors everywhere in space point always like radially away from that proton, and they get smaller and smaller and smaller as you get farther and farther away from that proton. We're literally saying, and so this is a vector field diagram. It represents the field due to a positive point source by drawing a representative sample of vectors like everywhere surrounding it. Now, it's a representative sample. The idea is that there's vectors everywhere, but they're following that pattern. And they go on for everywhere, getting smaller and smaller and smaller as they go. Remember what I'm trying to say by those arrows is each one of those, at the tail of each of those red arrows, we're saying if you were to place a test charge, like a little Q2, a test charge of +1 coulomb, if you were to place a +1 coulomb, if you were to place a +1 coulomb of charge somewhere in space, then at the tail of one of those arrows, what the arrow is saying is, okay, that +1 coulomb would be pushed out along that line. It would be pushed away, it would be repelled from the positive point source, and would be repelled by a certain number of newtons, right? The arrows point in the direction that the newtons would push, and the arrows get smaller and smaller because the number of newtons gets smaller and smaller as you get farther away from the point source. The force that would occur gets weaker as a function, as an inverse proportionality to the square of the distance away from the charge, like the r squared in the denominator. So this is a representation. So each arrow is a representation. Each arrow is a vector that shows what would happen, what force would be exerted on every 1 coulomb of charge that might land at the tail of that arrow. If 2 coulombs of charge land at the tail of that arrow, then both of them get pushed by that arrow. So the total force would be twice as big, right? So a field is a force waiting to happen. It's not saying that the force is happening. It's what the field is saying is it's all the information ready to go. What information? The information of how big the source charge is and where the source charge is. So each vector, and so a field is an array of vectors everywhere in space that gets produced by by any point source. Now, let me pause for a second and say, this is just a way of thinking about it. I mean, it's a real thing, but it's not Sesame Street. I'm not literally saying, I'm not saying that if you put a proton in the lab, that then like literally like styrofoam arrows like literally materially exist everywhere in space now. I'm not saying that there actually are arrows. But arrows are a way that we have of picturing or representing the force that's waiting to happen. Just like graphs are not like actual pictures, they're representations, right? But the arrows represent something that's real, which is what does exist everywhere in space the minute you put down a proton is information. What we are saying is the minute you put a proton in space, the information describing that proton is now everywhere in space. The information of what push will occur if another proton gets put anywhere in space, no matter how far away. So this is a way of representing the information. It's a representation. As you can see, it's a little bit inconvenient to draw because you have to draw all these arrows. So it turns out there's an even better way to represent the same idea. Once you accept that this is a representation of a reality, like there is a reality, which is that information is everywhere in space, the minute there's even one object in space, right? That's a reality. How you picture that reality is a representation. So you just choose the representation that's like the most convenient. This is a pretty convenient one, but one that's even more convenient is called a field line diagram. Oh, okay. Well, this pen just got more definitive. And by the way, I should say too, I think I've said it before on the other, everything I just said was for a positive point source. If that were a negative point source, if we were an electron sitting there, the picture would be the same, but all the arrows would be pointing in because you're always drawing a representation of what would happen to a positive 1 unit test charge. So positive point sources push other positives, but negatives pull other positives, right? So if this were a negative point source, all the arrows would be pointing in. But now I'm saying, is there a better way that we could draw this? A more convenient, more ultimately helpful way to draw this idea? Yes, there is. It's called a field line diagram. And the field line diagram, what happens if I crayon? Well, the field line diagram starts with the same idea. Here's the positive point source. But now, instead of drawing a different arrow at every single point, it shows up, it connects all the arrows. Well, actually, hold on, let me do one small correction here. This would be the field line picture of, this would be the field line representation, the field line diagram due to a positive point source. Now, it doesn't look very different. It's capturing the same idea, but there is a subtle difference. First of all, I connected up all the arrows. I don't have to draw as many arrows. Second of all, you'll notice that my arrow tips are no longer at the end of these lines. They're like in the middle somewhere, which is trying to get across the fact that these are no longer strict vectors. These lines go on forever. Okay. And they represent the same information, but in a different way. They are still saying that if you pick any point in space, the arrow that you land on will tell, or the line that you land on will tell you like what would happen to a positive point, a positive 1 Coulomb test charge. They're still telling you the same information. They're telling you how hard it will be pushed and in what direction. Now, direction is still connoted the same way by the orientation of these arrows. But magnitude now is represented a different way. Like I've connected up all the arrows so that I don't have to draw as many. So it's just more convenient. But by connecting up the arrows, there's no longer a concept of length of arrow anymore. Like all of these lines are understood to just go on forever. And that's why the arrow tips are now sort of drawn in the middle to make that clear that there's no end to any of these arrows. They go on forever. So you can't use the length of one of these lines anymore to represent magnitude. How do we represent magnitude in a picture like this? The fundamental change is magnitude in a picture like this is represented by, so this is representation, is represented by density of arrows on the page, i.e. number, or not arrows, I mean lines, density of lines on the page, i.e. number of lines per unit area on the page. So any region that you look at, like right here, if you want to know how hard is the field pushing there, well, the lines are very close right there. There's like 2 lines per square centimeter or whatever. So you would say the field is very strong. But if you look at a point over here, the lines are farther apart. There's fewer lines per square centimeter. Maybe there's only a line and a half or something on average per square centimeter here. So there you'd say the field is weaker. And you notice the field is just as weak here as it is here, as it is here. It's the same reality as in the other picture. It's just a different way of representing things that gives you a slight advantage when you're only talking about a single point source. But once you get into more complicated arrangements, like a whole line of charge or a wire of charge, like as in a circuit, or a plate of charge, like as in a capacitor, or a ball of charge, like a Van de Graaff generator, once you get into more complicated shapes, this simplified way of drawing the vectors becomes extremely important. So the one thing I'm just saying right now is that from here on, when we're picturing a field throughout space, because there's field everywhere in space, I'm saying the mere fact that there's even one proton anywhere in the whole universe means there's electrostatic field in the universe. The fact that there's many, many more than one proton in the universe means there's a lot of different kinds of contributions to the field in the universe. You can picture field as a bunch of little arrows everywhere at individual points, or more conveniently and more modernly, you could connect up all those arrows in your mind and just picture what we now call field lines in space. Wherever you picture, whatever direction the field lines are pointing is the push waiting to happen or the pull waiting to happen. And however spread out, the more spread out the lines are, the weaker the field. The closer they're drawn together, the stronger the field. So we're going to end on Wednesday with a bunch of comments I want to make about field lines and what they mean in reality. I'm not going to give you more equations or anything like that. I'm just trying to put this all together so that you can picture what field lines mean in the world to us. But that's all I wanted to say about that right now is field lines are drawn like that. You just connect up all the arrows so that density of field lines indicates magnitude rather than length of field lines. So field lines are not strict vectors. They're a different representation. Now, we still have 17 minutes. What I'd like you to do now, I know it's awkward, but please take them. I'm going to put in the chat. Please do the class evaluations. Say whatever, be honest and all of that. But it is important. I'm on the committee. I could just say quickly, they mean a lot more than students think. They really do. They really do get looked at. They're anonymous. They don't mean anything about what you individually say. You could say whatever you want and be honest, but they actually make more of a difference in the future of the school than it ever seems. And one day I'll try to sit down and explain that to you all. But I do know that from experience. So I'm going to put in the chat the link to the class evaluations. I'm going to ask you to do them now. I'm going to ask you to hang out and do this like I'm gonna whatever. I'm gonna put the link in. I think technically you do have to do it twice, like one for lecture and one for recitation, which is, I know it's dumb. They're both the same instructor. They're both the same class. Technically it's Monday and Wednesday, but please, you could say the exact same thing, but please do both because they both matter. Hold on, I'm just putting in the chat. But I'm going to ask you, don't leave. Please do this. Just please do it. So there's the link. Let's just hang out together. Obviously you could turn your video. Oh yeah. Or where do you send it? Well, I think you don't send it to me. I don't see your personal things, but I think it just tells you in the link. I think you just submit it in the link and it just gets automatically, wait. Oh, the proof. Uh, yeah, how did I do that last semester? Right. Okay, that's fair. Someone's asking me in direct chat. Last semester, I gave extra credit for proving that you did this. I'm not sure. And I'm happy to do that again. I was trying to figure out how I did that last semester also, honestly. And it is a slightly awkward thing to do. I will say, so someone's asking in direct chat how to do that. I don't screenshot, if you do it right now, I mean, please do it right now. And yeah, just screenshot, don't screenshot your answers or anything. Screenshot like where you hit submit or something. Just screenshot that and hold on to it. If I can figure out a way again to open up another portal, I will. And then you can submit that proof and get points. Yes. I mean, I was never sure whether that was an okay thing to do, so I still have to think about that. But yes, just screenshot where you hit submit. And wait, let me see. I'm looking at it.
Just a like complete side note, like I got extra credit for one of my other classes. When you like on the home screen of the evaluations, it gives like a check if you did it. So you could
Okay.
screenshot that if you
Okay.
want.
Great. No, I'm happy. No, I'm glad you both just brought that up. Whoever's bringing this up. I actually was stressing about this morning because I thought I did that last. I'm happy to give you points for doing this. Like as long as I don't see your answer, your yes. So just I will open up a portal. I just didn't yet, but sure. Like yes. And especially if you're saying other professors do that too, then all the better. It always feels a little queasy to me, but sure. So yeah, screenshot where it says you're complete and I'll open up a portal and happy to give you points for that. Yes, absolutely. I mean, and then again, but please, for this class, you technically have to do two, even if you're fast about them, because there's technically lecture and recitation. But yes, thank you guys. And I will shut up and I'll just say, let's just hang out together for um a few minutes and just do this. Okay, in fact, I'll open up a portal right now. So just don't leave, just do it, please, and just hang out. Or if you don't want to, it's your right not to do it too, obviously. But just hang out for a few minutes while these are happening. I will try to open up a portal right now if I can figure out what I did last time. Yes, I will let you. Okay, I see the chat. I'm doing it right. I'm putting up a portal right now. Hang on a second. Okay. Okay, I believe, okay, I'll write in the chat. I'm looking at the chat. I believe I just made a portal. You can check. Okay. Um, um, uh, it, wait, it doesn't, wait, it doesn't let you screenshot while on Zoom. Well, if that's true, okay, that's surprising, but if somehow the Zoom, if you're literally trying to do it, or you have done it, or you're up to the screenshot part, I mean, Shawnee or anybody, if the Zoom is getting in the way, like you could check out of the Zoom room. I just want to sort of make sure that everybody has clean time to do this. So, I mean, so Shawnee, or if you're having an issue, I trust you. I mean, you can leave the Zoom room if that will help. I just don't really want to shut down class yet, but feel free, Shawnee, or anybody, if Zoom is getting in the way somehow of. Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Um, okay, now I will, well, okay. Okay. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. I'm now seeing, I'm not trying to rush anybody. Take your time, but I'm seeing some things are coming in where I see what you guys are talking about. Yeah, there's definitely a way to there's definitely a thing you can screenshot to show me that you've completed this without me seeing any um like specific information. And it does confirm that it's both the lecture and recitation. So that's very helpful to me, and that's very encouraging, and you will get the 14 points. In fact, I'll even give the points right now. How about we do that to make this totally clear? So anybody who did it right now will get the points right now. And so let's say, hold on. Yeah, how about we'll say this. Once, oh, and someone's signing back in. Once, and honestly, just see the reason I'm like freakish about this, even though it's super awkward to me, is that I've been for years, I've been on the college committee that actually manages these, and I still do. I never see what anybody says about anybody, but we really like we're always in committee meetings and blah blah blah. Okay, I'm distracting people. The point is uh, like we're trying to make them matter more and more, not less and less. Let me just say that. So it's like I can't not make sure that you guys have an opportunity to do them if I'm going to be pushing for these. But I never know what anybody says, and I specifically, and I never should. So what I'm saying is right now, if you, as soon as you get your points for doing it, if you do it and you see the 14 points for doing both the lecture and recitation, then you feel free to go. and I'll see you Wednesday. And obviously contact me with any other issues that you might have. Okay, sorry. But yeah, once you see you got 14 points, and have a nice day. Okay. Huh. Well, I do evaluations. I mean, okay. No, can't hear you. Okay, sorry. Go back. Yes, have a good day. But on Christopher's thing, no, this is your chance to get your feedback on me. But my chance is when you ask me to write you a letter. But of course, if I weren't going to write something really awesome, then I would tell you. I would never write a bad letter about anybody, obviously. But okay, yes, okay. So yes, as soon as you see the 14 points, have a nice day.
Professor, it only allows me to do one submission. It doesn't let me submit both of them.
It doesn't let you. It only lets you do. Wait, are you in? Wait, are you in a different section? Is this one of these things where we agree that you're in a funny sec?
No,
Have a good
that was
day.
only last semester.
That was last. Okay. So wait, is there someone that maybe can help? I'm not, because I obviously can't look at it
No, I
specific.
submitted, but it only gives it for like the first screenshot with the 76, and then the other one is 78, which is the recitation. It only lets me upload the one for the class and not the one for
Okay,
the.
so you're
If they're
saying,
both done.
okay, if they're both done. In fact, I just gave you, okay, I see that. I actually see that, Shawnee. And I mean, I see that so I just gave you oh, weird. Okay. Okay, so I
You see
just
how
gave,
it only says one class? It only says 76,
all right,
but I
but I
did both
believe
of
you.
them.
Okay, but I do believe you, and I just gave, do you see that I just gave you the 14 point, not gave you, but I just recorded the 14 points. You got all 14 points.
Okay, no problem. I'm gonna try to see if maybe it'll let me upload another one later. It might just be acting weird. I don't know. Because my Google Classroom is weird. It says I have, like on my phone, it says I submitted everything, but when I sign in on my computer and my iPad, it says that I'm missing stuff. So I don't know. I'm just gonna re-upload everything just to make sure that you have everything. And then I'm gonna text you because I wanted to go over my midterm. I've been trying to meet with you Zoom so we can do it. I came on Tuesday, but nobody was there.
Yeah, I wrote you a bunch of emails about that. I don't know why. Have you checked your spam folder from, well, wait, I don't want to get into this whole conversation in front of other, hold on a second. Let me just see if if we're distracting other people. I apologize, Allison, if we're distracting, wait, let me see. But wait, I'll turn off the recording. Hang on a second. Let me,